how do you say, as a large company, how do you say we're going to invest this much money in this massive rework, and we know that we're going to be able to get our top 10 customers on it, and they'll each pay us $1 million or whatever. Um, if you say, well, what we really have is 200 small, like individual, like 2 location shops.
Yeah.
You're like, that guy's not going to upgrade for 5 years. That guy has his on-prem server. He's not going to touch it. We know this guy just fired his IT guy and he's not going to hire one, so he's not on the upgrade cycle either.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time for this segment, this is our interview series in which we invite very special guests from the industry. And for today, we have Anders. Anders, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I am a very special guest. There's only
extra
one of me.
Special.
Hello, my name is Anders Green, and I'm with Alox. Our product is Alox 4, which is a full cloud SaaS ERP system, accounting, inventory, and all of that stuff for smaller distributors. So we are doing all that kind of work. Sam has been gracious enough to let me sneak in with all of his very serious large talent that he generally hosts.
Yeah, and you probably have the award for most comments ever generated in the history of WBS Talks. I think you have been involved since the beginning. I mean, that's how we got to know each other, I believe.
Yes.
Right? From WBS Talks?
Yep, it's been that long. So I haven't gotten any grayer since the beginning, but that may be a technicality.
So I know that you guys are crushing in the fastener industry, and tell us a little bit about the history, how you guys started, and I don't know how new the product is. I don't know how many companies are thinking about launching a new ERP product, I guess, in 2025.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to. So I checked my notes recently, and it was don't. This is the most inefficient way to solve your problem, Anders. Don't start a new ERP or a new company. But I did that anyway. The history was. Separately, I have a fastener company myself. I supply to contractors and I have multiple sites. And it was the summer of 2019, and the notes were that I was looking around for a new system for our store. We were on a competitor that everyone would certainly recognize, a common distribution platform, and I couldn't find one that was really modern in the way that we would say, we'd expect like a full cloud, online, no on-prem servers, all of the things that, mobile friendly that you would expect in 2020 wasn't native to the products. So I had a long history with software and, IBM and Ericsson cell phones and a lot of those guys way back. Yeah. I brought that in and started, and we got started 3 days before the first COVID symptoms showed up in China. So it was like December 9th, 2019. And then 3 days later, they started getting symptoms. And then 21 days later was when the WHO announced COVID-19, everyone stay inside forever. And so that's not a bad time to sit down and write some software.
Yeah, and you probably decided to sit inside Alox, I guess. That was
Yeah,
that must be fun. Okay, so tell us more. I know that you sort of found the problem that you could not find a software that was more mobile friendly and modern. I mean, there are some. I would not
yep,
say that, right? So I don't know whether you knew at that time or not.
sure.
But when you talk about industry specific capabilities, they might not have those. And I don't know whether you guys are aligning yourselves to a specific industry. I know you guys work very closely in the fastener industry. I don't know if that is something that you guys have some sort of unique features that other ERP vendors may not have. So maybe talk about that a little bit. Number one, from the industry
Sure.
perspective, how do you see other ERP vendors compared to you?
It is interesting within the fastener industry. One piece that is different from a lot of other distribution and that sort of is baked into it and can't change is everything that everyone sells is heavy, or it's steel or
Yeah,
stainless steel and sometimes titanium or aluminum. But I mean, so the e-commerce aspect of that is not like the primary focus because the shipping will always be ridiculously expensive. And so what you have is estimates are about 2,500 small distributors of fasteners throughout the nation that are very inventory centric. And there's a surprising amount of customization needed for
yeah,
fasteners. And so people will end up, ordering to be manufactured specific specs on. I need this fastener at this length, this width, and this hardness, and this coating. And so, surprisingly, for even a small like one or two store operation, you would have situations where people are doing a little bit of manufacturing, like they're getting stuff spec'd
yeah,
to custom spec orders. So that's unusual for
yeah,
distributors that size. Uh, we also have, because of the nature of short runs and distributed inventory, there are some industry specific clearinghouses.
yeah,
Fastener Clearinghouse is one example where many of the distributors will upload their inventory, have it there available to search. Other vendors, other small stores will say, "Look, I'm out of this. Factories can't get it for 8 weeks. Does anyone else have it? This guy's got it one state over. Send me 2,000 of those bolts." So that's an industry specific integration that you wouldn't necessarily find built into other software.
yeah. So very good insights there, and I think Dave is in the room. Hello, Dave. Thank you so much for joining. Good to see you. The places are reversed this time. Generally, Dave is inside and Anders is outside. This time it is switched. So thank you so much for joining, Dave. So Anders, so obviously when you look at the industry specific capabilities, I think you spoke about the clearinghouse as well as the integration. When I look at the sort of the layout of the land of the industry, right? And if I go to any of the fastener trade shows, there are going to be 4 or 5 different ERP vendors that are probably going to be present there.
Yeah,
A lot of
I know
them,
those guys.
you definitely do.
Hmm.
And I mean, a lot of them are sort of mom and pop, these vendors. They have been there for a while. And I would agree with you that the technology is probably going to be dated for them because I don't know how many installations they have, but maybe founders
Oh,
are sort of,
well, I mean, I can generously say that, I mean, they are mature systems
yeah,
and they've been around for I think both of them are around 20 years for one, about
yeah,
maybe almost 30 for the other. So
yeah.
they are certainly have a large install base, and um, it's very functional pieces of software. I'm certainly not going to say that they don't work. They do.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I just think ours is cooler.
No, you definitely have modern technology. I don't know how many systems are going to be cloud native. I guess you guys are cloud native. That's my understanding.
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So I don't think a lot of systems that are on the floor they are going to be cloud native. The other challenge that I have personally seen, even within my customer base, that a lot of those vendors have been acquired by private equity, so they don't have the same support that they were getting from a mom and pop. It's a different story. It's a different ball game. Once they get acquired by private equity, the whole support
Hmm.
model changes, the pricing changes.
That's
Uh,
true.
so companies are struggling there as well. Is that your
And
experience as well?
we've seen that even in the fashion industry.
Yeah,
There was one vendor that was one of the smaller independent players,
yeah,
and they were regular attendees of the fastener trade shows, and they got acquired, and they were brought into a suite of ERP products, and I don't think they have been back uh, to the shows in a year. Uh, so I think that's kind of the story is they got bought up, they got wrapped up. Someone
yeah,
was looking to cut costs, and as far as the two main shows within fastener industry would be Fastener Fair, which is
yeah.
coming up in Nashville, Tennessee, quite shortly, and then the International Fastener Expo in Vegas. And I don't think that particular vendor was at either of them in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if somebody is not going to the trade show, that does not mean that they are not doing well. It may be a
True.
different strategy,
Hmm.
But at the same time, when I look at the fastener industry, I see the similar problems that you are trying to describe. Number one, the technology. They are just not able to innovate. I don't know if these private equity firms are going to invest in the real product. There are very few private equity that are willing to innovate the product because
That costs money.
it costs tons and tons of money. Okay, it's not easy, especially for the existing install base. For newer products it might be easier. For existing install base it's not easy, as well as I don't think they have enough market as well. If you try to talk about just the fastener industry, so the market cap may be a problem as well, and that's why I guess they don't invest in the product, unless you are talking about likes of Thama Bravo. They probably rewrite the whole software. They take very
Yeah.
long term approach. But if you are doing this for 5 years, it's not possible, I guess.
Yeah, there's again, the nature of the fastener industry makes that difficult also,
Yeah,
because if you say that what we there are some very large fastener distributors, Fastenal and some other places, but if we say that there are 2,500 small places,
yeah,
then how do you say, as a large company, how do you say we're going to invest this much money in this massive rework, and we know that we're going to be able to get our top 10 customers on it, and they'll each pay us $1 million or whatever. um, if you say, well, what we really have is 200 small, like, individual, like, two location shops,
yeah,
you're like, that guy's not going to upgrade for 5 years. That guy has his on-prem server, he's not going to touch it. We know this guy just fired his IT guy and he's not going to hire one, so he's not on the upgrade cycle either. So I think the nature of the smaller customers works against the idea that you have a lot of engineering resources that you can say this would be a great ROI
yeah.
as a some kind of vendor capitalist guy. It's difficult. It's
It,
difficult.
it is difficult, and so let's talk about the nuances of fastener industry, right? From the product perspective, it's very unique. I think you have already mentioned that there were very few systems that really were built for what was required for fastener industry, in my personal experience. And when you talk about, I think you did mention that you are going to have very complex inventory. You are going to have very complex I would say attributes. I don't want to use the word dimensions. Some people use that.
Yeah, and we call them tags, but
Yeah,
yes, and so yeah, there are a couple issues that lead to the layered complexity, which
yeah,
is as much as there are on the order of 350 to 400 different characteristics
yeah,
of a nut or bolt.
yeah,
uh, whether it's the type of threading,
yeah,
all the different pieces of it. um, there's not actually a standard for that. And so the categorization is, from one company to the next can be different of widely. So there's a lot of like mapping, hex head, hex caps, socket cap, between different data sets. So we have to have that all be customizable. And then the next aspect is because, this industry is just old, and I don't mean that disparagingly. I mean, we've been making bolts for a long time, right? That is the bolts aren't new. I was in one factory
Yeah.
last year, and we were doing the tour, and they showed us the machines that were doing the threading
Yeah.
onto the bolts, and they said these machines used to make bullet casings in World War II.
Yeah.
These machines. So you're like, this machine has been running for 80 years, not this location, this machine. And so the amount of legacy means that you have a lot of old data. And one of the big things we have is part numbers that don't match up between different sources. So you could have an engineering spec that says, I need bolt 123, and that spec might be 40 years old,
Yeah.
and no one makes it by part 123 anymore. Now it's known as a QD 412. And so the number of multiple part numbers for a single item,
Yeah.
and then mapping it to say, if I talk to this vendor, it's a QD 412.
Yeah.
But if I talk to this vendor, I
Yeah.
need to tell them it's an AB 120. Internally, I'm going to use this. And then below it, my customers, they need different part numbers on all of their paperwork when
Yeah.
it goes out that way. So all your RFQs, all your quotes, all your invoices, all your POs, they all have different numbers on them for the same part. It's a little mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess I mean the piece of functionality that you are trying to describe is called vendor cross reference.
Yes.
From the ERP perspective, but you have one more challenge, which is the customer cross reference, and which we have
Mm-hmm.
seen as well. So you're right, and especially, and this is the challenge that I was discussing, on B2B e-commerce show with Jason Greenwood. I don't know if you know him or not. He does very complex commerce, systems.
Yep.
And I guess you did mention that in the fastener industry, you are also going to have a big presence of commerce. And if the commerce systems are not going to support the customer cross reference, which is a big challenge,
Mm-hmm.
then you get into those challenges. So do you see the similar problem? For example, let's say if a customer has been on other systems, do they struggle with at least the customer cross reference? I know that the vendor cross reference is very common.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not talking about very small ERP systems. You
Yep.
talk about mainstream ERP systems, they all have vendor cross reference. Now, customers may not know how to use them, or the way they might have coded their SKUs.
Yeah.
They may be all over the place. That could be the reason. But generally, vendor cross reference that exists.
Yes, and I've seen that in some of the other pieces of software in our industry. Um, what I haven't seen is uh, a really flexible approach to that. Um, what we do there is we can certainly do like a one-to-one, this vendor gets this number,
Yeah.
but we can also put our vendors into groups and say, well, if you're a member of this group, use this number. So we could say if we had like an aerospace group, okay, if we said that that vendor is in the aerospace, if they got tagged aerospace,
Yeah.
use these aerospace numbers for that whole batch. So then you could have a mix of, for some people, I'm tagging them individually. They need this specific number. But for this guy's, it's an industry, and we're going to do it that way, and they're going to get that industry number. So, and the same thing on the bottom. You could put your customers into groups or tag them individually for those different overrides for that. So, what we see is that when we're bringing data in from other systems,
Yeah.
usually we I've seen a very rigid implementation.
Yeah.
So it would be like you had the number, your internal part number, and
Yeah.
then it would have, one vendor override. So you wouldn't be able to say like that this vendor maybe for the same bolt had like multiple part numbers,
Yeah.
they'd have one, but that doesn't help you if you're like, I'm trying to match up through 30 years of history.
Yeah.
Like this factory used to use this number. So if we find that anywhere, make sure that we can still find it in our files and know what it is. So multiple cross references per vendor is not what I've seen when we've been bringing in data. And we think that's pretty important to have, as much flexibility as you need, because it's pretty common that you come across they called it what? Add it to the list.
So let's peel some layers there. So I guess, and I think it's fairly new for me as well, to be completely honest. I don't think, we have seen that either. So, the vendor groups exist. Okay. So
Yeah.
if I look at, so the vendor groups are going to have different piece of functionality. The vendor groups are going to support the pricing and discounting, I guess. Sometimes they have I don't know if they have allocation or not. But that is what is the vendor groups are for. But I don't know if the cross-reference functionality that you are describing is done at the vendor group level. That's definitely very new. So why would you see this as a problem? Did customers tell you that they need to have this at the vendor group level because they were having a lot of maintenance issues? They were taking a long time to maintain that. Tell me a little bit more what's going on there.
So this is a little bit of philosophy that I have, where
Yeah.
I looked at what I could see that the problem was. It was this big, and then I said, well, if I'm gonna build this, how can I build it so that when someone comes back to me 2 years from now with their
Yeah.
cool idea,
Yeah.
that I don't have to rebuild the whole thing. So when we started, it was well, surely we're going to have two people that want to use the same thing. And I said, well, if we have two companies that want to use the same part number, then surely we would want to manage them into groups. Just because why wouldn't you want to? Because a lot of what I'm thinking when we're building code and designing interfaces is someone going to come to me in 6 months and say, I can't believe I have to click 6 times. Can you make it so I can only click twice? And I'm like, you're going to make me spend 2 weeks coding this so you can click 4 less times. But it turns out that, that's how you build a system that is robust as far as its ability to be configured for things you hadn't anticipated. So we see that certainly going down, where we find groups of customers that have like a common nickname, and what that does is at the front counter, someone might walk in and be like, I need a J-bolt.
Yeah.
And J-bolt is not at all the official name or any vendor name, but guess what it looks like? It looks like this. And all the contractors that come in, when they send their guys, they're like, I just need a J-bolt that's 8 inches. So you got to be able to put in, type of this, and then that's what they want to see on their receipt. Okay, we can do that. It's an ASTM-8-12 whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's where it came from, is that we generally look at let's solve our too many clicks problem before it happens, and then B, let's look at the flexibility going beyond what we need right now, a little more engineering to sort of future proof what we want to end up building.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting scenario, J-bolt, I guess. So does this help more from the search perspective as well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So, okay,
yeah. So like if you want to have nicknames for items, like that big bolt, and you have big bolt as one of your cross-reference pieces.
Yeah.
At the counter, the person working counter be like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Big bolt. Oh, there it is, big bolt. But then when it pulls up, it'll translate it into your official, part number internally. But then on the outgoing paperwork, it'll take care of whatever that customer needs to see. So Yeah, you can search by everything and put in a bunch of weirdo nicknames if that's what's going on in your industry, right?
Undersbolt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which does come up sometimes. You have like like Joey's special order bolt. He like
Okay.
every month he comes in and buys these, and they're sitting in the back corner. We don't
Which
know
one is
what they
that?
are. Yeah, yeah, because
Give me
we.
4 hours. Let me find that in the system.
I know, I know, I know. So by giving your team the
Yeah.
flexibility to be like a little less formal on some of
Yeah.
those like internal nicknames,
Yeah.
that's just going to speed up order taking
Yeah.
and help you communicate with your customers.
Yeah. So let's go back to your scenario about the historical, and context. And I don't know, the historical context is also same to what you are describing right now. If somebody has been calling this as Joey Bolt,
Hmm.
so are these names retained somewhere in the order? And is that the historical problem that you were talking about that need to be solved in
So
the industry?
right, so that is tricky too, because so if we want to get deep down into the data layers here,
Yeah.
what we need to do is on every one of those invoice records, we need to have one ID that's attached to whatever the item actually is, the real item itself, and then separately we're also storing an ID of the name. So we're like, now we know, okay, what was the item? Because of course we need that for all the inventory and graphs and everything.
Yeah.
But then let's keep track also of what did we say was on that piece of paper? What did we call it? Because that's what we're going to need to know in the future to
Yeah.
be like, yeah, we called it that here. Here's what it really is. Here's all the other pieces of information that are connected to it. And so you can't just say, uh, have the one piece. You're going to need to, every time you bifurcate things, you need to record the whole layer of what's going on. It's important to keep all that hierarchy intact in there.
Yeah.
Deep
Yeah.
data, Sam. Deep data.
Deep data. And when you talk about deep data, one of the vendors, I guess, Epicor, and I don't know whether you agree with me or not. I mean, they definitely have very large market share in the fastener industry, right?
I'm not going to dispute their market share.
No, and because of that, I guess, I mean, if you look at their product, and I don't know whether you have paid attention to it or not, on the product is very unique. It comes across as different because maybe they tried to accommodate all of these unique requirements, inside the product over the period of time, and they are fairly unique, to be completely honest. And one of the unique things that I have noticed, especially, I don't know whether, I don't recall whether it is. I think Profit 21 does have that. I don't know if Kinetic also has. I'm not too sure about that. But when you look at Profit 21, one of the things that I had noticed, they had the vendors and suppliers. They are different. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you have noticed that in your conversations as well. The vendor and supplier, are they treated differently? If they are treated differently, and is that a fastener thing? Industrial distribution thing. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
I've seen that in Profit 21,
Yeah.
where the concept is who you're paying may not be who you're supplying,
Yeah.
uh, and you might have multiple suppliers underneath a master payer.
Yeah.
So there, I think within industrial distribution, the idea of a master distributor
Yeah.
is a concept that is around.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I haven't seen it so much at this scale of the
Yeah.
of the smaller businesses.
Yeah.
And I think that's because we're just seeing more people will ship to one location and then
Yeah.
distribute it internally themselves. So it's not so much like they're putting in an order with one master company that is then getting distributed to multiple of their own branches
Yeah.
and being sourced by different branches also. So I think only because the scale
Yeah.
where we are, it's slightly less common. I
Yeah.
think it's certainly out there, and people do want to do consolidated billing,
Yeah.
and a little bit of like, yeah, I bought it from this guy, but I need to pay this guy, and we handle that by having a cascading set of addresses
Yeah.
and branches internally for one entity that is a
Yeah.
vendor. So
Yeah.
slightly differently than Profit 21 does that.
Yeah, so very interesting, and personally, I guess how we have seen this done is generally you are going to have some sort of ship to,
Yeah,
inside your the main account. You are right that when you are going to have things such as your master distributor, they are going to have a little bit different functionality, not just shipping and sourcing. I think that can be handled by your account and then ship tos. But I mean, there are things such as your buying groups. Buying groups have very, very, very different pieces of functionality, and I guess
yeah,
buying groups are very common in the fastener industry as well. But they are
sure.
common in electrical, HVAC. Anything
Yep.
industrial is probably going to have those as well. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
like
Yeah,
someplace like Sphere One
yeah,
is a big buying group, and Net Plus is another one that
yeah,
is
net
common
plus.
here,
Yeah.
and so those guys are definitely around, and there's going to be different paperwork for that crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that could be the driver for these different structures. I mean, Epicor definitely looks very different compared to the other,
Mm.
ERP vendors, for whatever reason, and this could be one of the reasons, I guess. Um,
Well, I mean, I don't know that we could necessarily ascribe it to Epicor because Profit 21 used to be Activant
yeah,
way back, and then they got acquired. So
yeah,
Epicor is certainly bringing their pieces, their chess pieces into the board. So I don't know if it's a design philosophy internally, but maybe just an accident of history of who they've happened to glom onto. So
yeah. But I mean, I was talking about that specific
oh
product
yeah,
that may have
yep,
been evolved over the period of time because of all of these requirements. But you are
yes,
right that it was an acquired product. But again, I mean, 90% of the acquired products that are going to be designed for specific industries, they are going to have very unique layers for those industries.
yep.
Sometimes those are cultural things, and they have been accommodated inside the product because people are not willing to change, I guess, and the processes, you cannot change those either. um,
Do that. So here's with no names, but I went to a factory. I won't even say when.
yeah,
Um, and they were churning out material, by the ton.
yeah,
And the method that they kept everything organized was a large wall with index cards
yeah,
on the wall. And as production went through, they would move the card to the next spot and keeping different rows. And then when it was done, and it was typed up like on a typewriter,
yeah,
like, and then it went in a card file with the rest of the history of that thing. And there was a row of cabinets, must have been 50 feet long, with cards going back to the late 60s.
yeah.
And so when we say, do people not want to change? They do not want to change. And 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 then from like for you and I, if we're like, hey, we'd like to come in and maybe evaluate this thing and talk about doing a new ERP, and they're like, how are you going to get our data in? And you're like, you mean all of those? Like, you're like, how are we going to get that whole stack of filing cabinets into a computer?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that's a really good question.
So I mean, you are always going to have these interesting stories in the ERP world. I mean, that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so tell us more stories. I know you guys have been crushing right now. I don't know whether you guys have most of the implementations that you have done, are they in the fastener industry or some other industries? Maybe talk about your implementations a little bit. If you have seen any specific challenges that were interesting for you. So talk about
Yeah,
those stories.
yeah. Every new system that we come across
Yeah,
has its challenges. Um, almost the baseline easiest thing is, if someone says, hey, we're on QuickBooks and we're drowning in inventory and we need to get off that, which is a common complaint and not super surprising. So that's pretty standard. They're very regular exports from that. It's a little different if it's a system that is not necessarily built to export its data, and they're like, here you go. Here's the password to our Microsoft SQL Server. Good luck. And so it's like coming through like the bushes on like a tropical island. You're like, I don't know what the schema is going to be. I don't know how to organize their data. I don't know which tables are even actually used. What stuff that is in here is actually for like custom implementations that this customer didn't buy. So that's a real exploring operation when you get into new stuff, and still it's not too hard to suss out like, hey, let's find some items and some vendors and some customers. Let's look for addresses and see how they connect. You should be able to find the weight of a thing, like that should be available. But then when you start to peel away, like, I need to find costing layers. What is accurate here? And that is a little more not it's a little more algorithmically exploratory in that you're like, I'm going to write some SQL code, see if I can pull this out, and then maybe reference it against the system that's up and running and say, does this match? Like, is this cost right? So it certainly takes more time. You tell me, Sam, has your experience been when someone wants to get off an old system that the vendor of the old system is like, hey, here's how all those exports are going to work. So here's how to get all your data out of our system, and we'll just handle that for free. We'll just send you the scripts. Is that what works for you, Sam?
So you are getting the taste of what we generally go through, to be completely honest. I mean, this is what we do for a living, right? Now, in your case, you are a bit different, right? Because 90% of the ERP vendors that I know are not going to touch what you are touching. Legally, they are not going to touch. They don't take the responsibility. It's written in the contract. So the process does not work the way you are describing that. Okay, take my SQL Server password, do whatever you have to. Don't come back to me. Don't take my time. Figure it out and bring me the system that is going to work magically. You are somehow able to do that. And that's the beauty that I see and the advantage of working with these smaller vendors, right? Because they are able to provide far more. Well, I don't know. This is more of the white glove service I think they are getting. But they are not paying for white glove.
But I mean, to be fair though, a lot of it is scale, right? If we're saying that Alox, we're dealing with distributors that are under $20 million. What they don't have is 40 locations, 300,000 SKUs, running under 7 different currencies, in multinational situations. I mean, that like that level of data layers is much more complicated. So when we can say, look, at the scale that we're dealing with, the people that we're talking to are like, at least they're all in one country. Like all their locations are, in one country and probably one state. You're like, all right, like let's get this to be a little more manageable. And so that's how we can do that. It's not that, Alox is magical. It's that we're matching our scale to where our capabilities are. And I think that as much as I would love to spend 18 months working on, like a Pfizer size ERP implementation data transfer project, I'd probably strangle someone halfway through. Because, what do you mean? You need that? No one looks at that. Oh, we need that. I can tell from the data that you don't look at that. Oh, it's very important for us. The last time you accessed it was in 97.
I can tell you the date. The system is
I know.
telling. Okay, you are telling
I
a
know.
different story. No,
No, critically
no,
important.
system does not work. Okay, AI is lying.
Yeah. So yeah, adventures in data transport. Like it's I like the challenge myself. I think it's fun to go, find how did they do that, and let's move that over.
Yeah, and
Mm.
it's always interesting. And I don't know, how which systems you are exporting it from. And I think you did mention the comment that some systems are not necessarily designed for export. So I don't know what your expectations are going to be when you say they are designed for export. Sometimes we have seen scenarios they will claim that they are designed for export, but they are only going to export, let's say, the customer vendors and items. And when you want bombs,
Yeah,
okay, figure it out.
and when they say export, what they mean is we're going to give you a PDF,
Yeah,
like not a spreadsheet or a CSV. They're like, here's a PDF that is
yeah,
unscannable and weirdly formatted and unparsable. And you're like, oh, this is like, why, you guys? Why did you like? Because it makes it more difficult. Like it's not accidental. So but the other part of that too is you've got to match up your data layers.
yeah,
Whereas, I think it's pretty common that
yeah,
what you'll see in some systems is you're like vendor
yeah,
and then shipping address,
yeah,
billing address,
yeah,
and maybe that's it. But there's not even a possibility of like, well, actually they have 4 shipping addresses.
yeah,
Like there's just the 2, and like Alox is very much like a tree. Like you can add more and more and more, levels to that tree. If you wanted to have
yeah,
18 shipping addresses, that's fine.
yeah,
And then uh, so taking that, what I consider a fairly flat data structure
yeah,
for those vendors, and then having to translate it into our more flexible tree structure,
yeah,
it's going to be different every time because we got to find where did they hide it, and and also I think we both share a little bit of silent pain at the mess that can be found in data,
yeah.
right? Like you're like, let me just import all these addresses and countries. Why are half of these countries somebody's fax number? You're like, that's not 888.425.7100 is not a country. That's a phone number. And yet that is what is, and you're like, did I write this query wrong? Like, is this SQL wrong? And
That
then
could be somebody's name, Anders.
well, but then you pull it up like in like the reference software, and you're like, here's the customer record,
Yeah,
and right down at country, you're like,
yeah,
blah 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 fax,
yeah,
and you're like, okay, so it just was next to where the other phone numbers were on the screen, so they
yeah,
put fax numbers in there.
yeah.
Okay, that means we write some more code to change these countries to a separate fax number import.
So
So
when you get into these scenarios, so obviously these are very unique, and this is all data corruption, I guess. And sometimes data corruption is done for design. We have seen cases where, let's say, in some industries, what they do is they don't necessarily have, they don't uh, store customers, I guess, or I'm missing something. I guess this is probably in the apparel industry, and they don't necessarily have the real ERP state, and they just, I believe they don't store any customers. I believe in that, because they don't need that. The only thing they are in customers, they are going to use it as more of the dimension. If you look at, I mean, that's how they use it, right? So technically, they can use, because it's a, some systems, for example, QuickBooks, you can do pretty much whatever you want because there are no traffic rules, right? So you can
yeah,
store, and sometimes the problem that you are describing is very similar. That, okay, you are seeing something in the customer, but this is not really the customer; it's something else.
right.
So
It's just
now,
a transaction that happened sometime, and yeah, maybe it's the same person or maybe it's not. Uh, it's not necessarily target. Like I, I I don't know.
yeah,
Like you does Walmart
yeah,
even have the concept of we keep a customer record for in-store stuff? I don't know. Like, because they're running millions of transactions. Do they really care? Like, I, the, are they going to do anything more than track it to more of a credit card identity instead of a customer person?
So there are two scenarios in those cases, and generally they don't fall into the ERP. In your case, it's different because you are acting both roles, I guess. You are acting as more of the ERP plus POS plus WMS. When you talk about scale as large as Walmart, then they are going to have a lot of systems, obviously. It's
Yeah,
not going to be just one system that is going to do everything. It doesn't work that way, right? At that scale.
no,
So for the
no,
POS, the transaction that you are describing, so they are going to have anonymized transactions, is probably the term,
yeah,
where you are not going to have any sort of history of the customer. So Anders goes today, buys a bunch of candies, nobody knows about it. Next time he comes back, it's different Anders.
yeah. That was the other
No,
guy, the other bald guy with a
we
beard. He was buying all that candy.
we don't know what you did with candies. You can
No,
buy as many as you like.
I definitely don't have like a stack of Twix and Kit Kat anywhere around here.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they do have loyalty as well, and I don't know if you guys have loyalty. But again, these concepts are going to be inside e-commerce, but you are acting as more of the e-commerce as well, I believe. You are doing your transactions over web. You are doing inside the store, so you are acting
Yeah,
as all of the above, I believe, right?
yeah, yeah, and right, and a customer portal that people can get into
Yeah.
and see their transactions and their history. So, yeah, it's a 360 all the way around for that.
Yeah. So, what other challenges that you have seen other than data? In data, have you seen any other challenges that are really interesting for you that you didn't know and you found really fascinating in these implementations?
We certainly see an issue with general IT work at this scale. Uh, so and that's shifting too as people move to the cloud. Even as recently as maybe 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
there was a group that was pretty strong. About half of the people that we would talk to, they were like, "Yeah, we want our server on site. I want it to be there." And my thought was, you know, you want it to be there so that the janitor can unplug it when he plugs in his vacuum on the weekend. Like, why do you want your server to be there? They're like, they just want it there. But since the pandemic and all the video streaming and all that stuff,
Yeah.
it has been much more that people are comfortable with. Yeah, I don't want a computer in my office. I don't want to have the responsibility of running updates. I don't want to be like, oh, should I click update or
Yeah.
not? Like
Yeah.
they just want to log on and it works.
Yeah.
So that has been a big shift in attitude,
Yeah.
even at smaller scales, where we used to have people that are like, oh well, what what if what if the power goes out? How can we do our transactions then? I'm like, if the power goes out, how are you going to power the server in your closet? Like, they're like, what do you mean the power
Hey,
goes
we
out?
had backup generator.
Yeah, yeah. So like they're like, well, what if the internet goes out, but we still have power? I'm like, so how are you running the credit card when with no connect? So the idea that
Yeah.
people are worried about connectivity
Yeah.
has very much reduced. Like even just 2 years ago, we're seeing a lot of people being much more comfortable with, yeah, I don't want to do servers. The the other aspect is, uh, I don't know if this is like just the world moving on, but people have to a degree gotten
Yeah.
tired of
Yeah.
doing IT work. Like they're like, yes, yeah, I can install Windows, I
Yeah.
can do that, I can run the updates and I can
Yeah.
update the drivers.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it anymore because they're seeing that activity is not bringing a business value to
Yeah.
them. Like they're like, yeah, we could run around all day patching things and doing updates and
Yeah.
changing drivers. It doesn't make us any money.
Yeah.
So why are we doing it? Like, how come we aren't using that old laptop that still runs
Yeah.
and just bringing up a web browser and using that?
Yeah.
So I think the level of comfort
Yeah,
with all of the operating systems are lasting longer. We just need a web browser. We just need to do this, get the information in print, and move on with
yeah,
our business.
yeah.
I think that is a relatively new trend line that only over the last couple of years people are more comfortable with. What are you seeing at a larger scale with that, Sam?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting, point, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about that because Wi-Fi connection has always been sort of the driver. I would say in this debate on-prem versus cloud, we are not hearing as much, resistance towards cloud that okay they want on-prem, but when you get into your scenario, because you are acting as more of the POS and WMS as well.
Hmm.
And when you talk about, so I know that you are going to argue that, internet connection is probably not a problem in 2025. But when you talk about those large warehouses as well as stores,
Yeah.
okay, their internet does have a problem. In my personal
Yes.
experience, and so they don't run on the internet that I know, because they are going to have POS terminal that is going to do the offline sync later on, whatever arrangement they have, so they don't need the real time connection. That's my understanding. And
Hmm.
then for the credit card terminal that you pointed out, I don't know if they need the real
They can do. They can cache it. They can cache and hold, and then finalize and transmit at the end of the day. They can do that if they
right.
have power. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that's not as critical, I guess. And even for WMS we have seen that, and that's why they customers actually want, um, they don't want to rely on the real time
Hmm.
internet connection, because again, I mean, I'm telling you, in 2025 we are still struggling with the internet. That's real.
Yeah. But what we recommend, and what I'm running also
Yeah,
is a dual input auto switchover system.
yeah,
So we have, you have a router that is set up so
yeah,
that, yep, normally it's getting its internet connection for WAN over, fiber or cable,
yeah,
and 99% of the time that's what you're using. But then the router itself has a SIM card,
yeah,
and you run a proper antenna to the roof with a big fat cable.
yeah,
And so when your cable, when your fiber drops out, the router takes care of automatically switching that data packet transmission to 5G or
hmm.
4G, and it's seamless. Like you won't even like it'll take care of it at a packet level.
Huh.
So even if that drops out, then you won't even notice unless like all your guys are streaming YouTube on the company Wi-Fi. Then you're like, why is everything so slow? And they're like, you four guys need to stop watching TikTok because we're trying to check some customers out here. So, but that technology, those routers, I mean, they're available. They're not
Yeah,
super expensive, but they aren't like in everyone's head, like
yeah,
that. Oh, that's what I need,
yeah,
right? So that is a common recommendation that we make to say, look, yeah, we're internet based. Uh, you want to have a real time live backup,
yeah,
and how much is that going to cost me? The router might be $400,
yeah,
and then you just put like a Mint Mobile card because you're not running all kinds of data through it.
yeah,
It's only when your fiber drops out. And what I've seen, I
yeah,
actually looked at our logs the other day, is over the last 4 months,
yeah,
this industrial site, our internet dropped out 4 times for a total of about 16 seconds total. So during that time, it just switched over to
yeah,
cell to move a little bit of data,
yeah,
and nobody noticed until I looked at the logs 4 months later. So, so yeah, you've got to be a little more careful
yeah,
with designing your internet connectivity.
yeah,
If you're doing it for business, then you are at home. You're like, well, I can just hotspot my phone. It's true. You got to fiddle with some things.
yeah,
So there's a little bit of tech, but even though that's still pretty doable by a
yeah,
small shop. They're like, hey, buy this thing, put in a SIM card,
yeah.
uh, don't mess with it. Okay, we can do that.
That's a very creative solution. Thank you so much for sharing that. So,
Yeah.
Anders, when I'm talking to you, time flies. I mean, we are close to our time right now. I don't know if you're going to have any sort of closing advice for our listeners.
I don't know. I mean, it's springtime. Go ride a bicycle. Get outside.
Bicycle.
You know, let's.
Alox is working, doing the work for you.
Yeah, that's right. You should be on the classic dude on a beach on his laptop, right? Like that's what we were all promised in the '90s, right? With a laptop about this thick, right? That's maybe a fruity drink. So my hope for our viewers is that some sand and a fruity drink is in your future, while Alox is taking care of your business back on site for all your guys. That's my hope.
Yeah. So, if people want to find you, how can they find you? Maybe you want to share your information, I
Sure.
guess.
Yeah. LinkedIn is the best place to find me. You can look for Anders Green and Alox4 on LinkedIn, and our website, alox4.online. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. But chat me on LinkedIn. That's where all the business is happening. There is no Alox TikTok, Sam. If that's what you've been waiting for, that we don't have the dances.
It's coming, right, Anders? It's coming. It's coming in 2026.
That's right. I got to practice all those moves first. Then the dances are coming.
Those are natural for you, Anders.
We need to get together at Expo and have the ERP dance jam.
I'll hold the camera. I'm not good at that either, but I'll hold the camera. You do the moves.
Fantastic. Sam, thanks so much for having me on, and thank you for Elevate IQ for all of the work that you do, keeping everyone up to date and educating in the ERP space. It's fantastic.
Of course, it's our pleasure. And thank you so much, Anders, once again for coming on and sharing your insights. And guys, if you joined for the first time, this was part of our interview series for which we meet every Friday between 8 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Sometimes we don't meet depending upon the guest. So on that note, I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.